Hello everyone, Mr. Matt here. Today we're going to read a book about Winnie the Pooh. I hope you guys are having a great week. If you want to do a comprehension sheet, feel free to go ahead. Otherwise, if you just want to enjoy the story, that's fine as well. Between each page, I'll try to lift the book up to the camera for you guys to see each page as well. So, this is The Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. In a little house deep in the 100-acre woods, a very round bear named Winnie the Pooh was doing his slimming exercises. He was breathing deeply when all of a sudden he felt a tummy rumble. "Oh my," said Pooh. "This up and down is making me hungry." Pooh hurried to the cupboard and got out his honey pot. "Bother," said Pooh. There's nothing left in the sticky part." But the sticky part was better than no honey at all. So Pooh stuck his nose into the pot and licked up the very last bit. With his head deep inside the pot, Pooh heard a buzzing sound. "That buzzing means something," Pooh said. Pop! He popped his head out and saw a bee fly in the window. "Buzzing means bees," said Pooh. "And where there are bees, there's usually honey." Pooh followed the bee through the 100-acre wood. And when he came to the foot of a very tall tree, he looked up and saw a bee buzzing around a hole. "Honey," said Pooh, and began to climb. He climbed and climbed all the way up to the tree. All the way up to the hole of the tree. As Pooh leaned, the branch began to bend. The more he leaned, the more the branch began to bend, until he almost reached the honey. He leaned just a little more, and snap went the branch, and down went Pooh. He bounced from branch to branch to branch, until he ran out of branches and landed head first into a bush. "Oh my," said Pooh, rubbing his sore head. "I guess it all comes from liking honey so much." Pooh rubbed his head so hard that he came up with an idea. He would borrow a balloon from his friend Christopher Robin. "You can't get honey with a balloon," Christopher Robin told Pooh. "I can," said Pooh. "I shall. Hang on to the string and float up to the bee-hole," he explained. Then Pooh rolled himself in mud until he was covered from his nose to his toes. "I'm pretending to be a little black storm cloud," Pooh told Christopher Robin, "to fool the bees." "Silly old bear," said Christopher Robin. He watched Pooh float up into the sky, and he dangled right beside the hole. Pooh reached in and pulled out a paw full of golden honey as the bees began to buzz suspiciously around his head. "Christopher Robin," called Pooh, "I think the bees suspect that I am not a little black storm cloud." With a swoosh, the balloon string loosened and the balloon began to lose air. It swooshed under Pooh and swooshed over Pooh, and then it rose high above the tree tops with Pooh trailing along for the ride. "Oh my," said Pooh. Then the balloon had no more air at all, and down Pooh went, landing right on top of Christopher Robin. "Oh dear," said Pooh, shaking his head. "I guess it all comes from liking honey so much." But then it was lunchtime, and Pooh was hungrier than ever, so he sat down to think. And he thought about about honey, and then he thought about Rabbit, because Rabbit always had some honey in his house. So Pooh hurried to Rabbit's house. Come in, Pooh," said Rabbit. "Why, thank you," said Rabbit. "Why, thank you, Rabbit," said Pooh. "How about some lunch?" Rabbit asked, knowing perfectly well that Pooh's answer would be, Would you like some condensed milk or honey on your bread? Both, Pooh answered. But never mind the bread, he added, so as not to appear greedy. Rabbit sat at the table and watched Pooh eat. First, Pooh had a little helping of condensed milk, and then a little helping of honey. Then he had another helping of condensed milk, and another helping of honey. Pooh ate and ate and ate. At last, Pooh rose slowly from the table and said in a rather sticky voice, "Goodbye, Rabbit. I must be going." Rabbit sighed. "Well, Pooh, if you're sure you won't have any more." "Is there any more?" asked Pooh. "No," said Rabbit. "There isn't." "I thought not," said Pooh, and he started out of Rabbit's front door. Pooh's head reached the outdoor, and his feet dangled indoors, but his middle got stuck in the middle. Pooh tried to get out. He couldn't. He tried to go in, but he couldn't do that either. "Bother," said Pooh. "It all comes from not having a big enough front door." "Nonsense," said Rabbit sharply. "It all comes from you eating so much." And he hurried out the back door to fetch Christopher Robin. Now there was nothing for Pooh to do but wait. He looked at the trees blowing in the breeze. He watched the clouds sailing by in the blue sky. Then he wiggled his bottom and kicked his legs just in case. But he was still stuck tight. So he looked at the tree some more and spotted Owl sitting in a branch. "Hello, Pooh," said Owl. "How are you?" "Oh, no," said Pooh. "I'm just resting." Owl swooped down from the branch. "Pooh," he said, "you are definitely stuck. You are wedged bare in a great tightness. This situation calls for an expert." "Did someone say expert?" said Gopher. Gopher's my name, and digging's my game. Now what seems to be the problem?" He quickly inspected the situation. "The problem with the door," Gopher said, "is that the bear is in it. Now we could dig him out, or we could use a dynamite to help him out." "Dynamite," Pooh said with a very small voice. "Dynamite," exclaimed Owl. "Nonsense, we can't dynamite. We might hurt him." "Well, let's think this over," said Gopher, popping back down into his hole. "Let me know if you change your mind." Finally, Rabbit returned with Christopher Robin, close behind. "Silly old bear," said Christopher Robin, shaking his head. Then he took hold of Pooh's paws, and Rabbit took hold of Christopher Robin's shirt, and they pulled, and they pulled, and they pulled. But Pooh was still stuck tight. "Pooh Bear," said Christopher Robin, "there's only one thing to do. We will just have to wait for you to get thin." So they all waited. Christopher Robin read stories to Pooh. Owl lectured him on the dangers of eating too much. Kanga bought Pooh a handkerchief to protect his head from the sun. And Eeyore made gloomy predictions about how long it might take for Pooh to get thinner. "It could be days," he said with a sigh. "Maybe weeks, months," he added. Rabbit grew tired of seeing Pooh's bottom and legs where the front door used to be, so he wedged a picture frame around Pooh and put a lace dolly on Pooh's bottom. "And now for a little dash of color," he said, as he set a flower pot on top of the dolly. But Pooh kicked his legs and the flower pot went crashing to the ground. Next, Rabbit found two branches that looked like antlers. With a paintbrush, he made a moose face on Pooh's bottom. For a finishing touch, Rabbit found a board and put it across Pooh's legs like a shelf. "Now that's more like it." More time passed, and still Pooh wasn't getting any thinner. Kanga brought Roo for a visit. "I brought you some honeysuckle, Pooh," said Roo. Honeysuckle, said Pooh hungrily. No, Pooh, said Kangaroo laughing. You don't eat it, you smell it. Pooh buried his nose in the flowers and sniffed. He said. He sniffed again. Ah, this is... Then his nose began to tickle. Achoo! Down came Rabbit's new shelf, knickknacks and all. Oh dear, said Rabbit crossly. Why did I ever invite that bear over for lunch? That night, Pooh was awakened by Gopher, who popped up to eat his midnight lunch. Pooh watched hungrily as Gopher ate. When Gopher took a honey pot from his lunchbox, Pooh just couldn't stand it any longer. Please, Gopher, he pleaded. Could you spare a small smackerel of honey? Inside, Rabbit heard voices. Why, he was sure he had just heard someone give Pooh some honey. Honey that would make him even fatter and keep him stuck in Rabbit's front door even longer. Stop, Rabbit cried as he rushed out back of the door, around the front door, just in time to snatch the honey pot from Pooh's paws. Not a bite, he snapped. Not a lick, not a drop. Then he made a sign and stuck it right in the front of Pooh, where everyone could see it. The sign said, Don't feed the bear. The next morning, Rabbit was busy tidying up. He mopped his brow and leaned against Pooh's bottom to rest. Pooh moved. He budged! Hooray! He budged! Rabbit cried. He bidged, he badged, he booged. He stopped to catch his breath. Christopher Robin, he said. I must get Christopher Robin. And out his back door, Rabbit went, off through the 100-acre wood, just as fast as he could. Before Pooh knew it, along came a parade of very good friends. Rabbit ran into his house and began to push Pooh's bottom. Christopher Robin grabbed Pooh's paws. Kanga grabbed Christopher Robin, and Eeyore grabbed Kanga. Roo grabbed Eeyore, and they all pulled as hard as they could. Just when they began to think that perhaps Pooh hasn't budged at all, Robin backed into his living room as far as he could and ran across the floor as fast as he could and threw himself at Pooh's bottom as hard as he could throw himself. And pop! Pooh flew out the front door like a cork from a bottle and sailed across the grassy place in front of Pooh's rabbit house. Straight toward another honey tree, he landed head first right inside the hole of the tree. Bzzz. Pooh's sudden appearance startled the bees, and they began to fly out of the tree as far over the tree top. Winnie the Pooh considered his new surrounding. Everywhere he looked, he saw delicious, delightful, mouth-watering honey. Don't worry, Pooh, called Christopher Robin from way down below. We'll get you out. Take your time, Christopher Robin, said Pooh. Take your time. So what do you think's going to happen now? Now he's surrounded with some more honey. Do you think he's learned his lesson? Alright, thanks, guys. Some books you read from information and learning, but other books you try to figure out what lesson the author is trying to give you guys. You guys have a great afternoon, and thank you for listening.